what is love, the definition of love. I think the best definition of love is when you see it in a couple, when it was incarnated between a man and a woman. And I saw it a couple of weeks, about a month ago, my grandmother passed away. And she was married to my grandpa. They were married for 66 years. They had 10 kids, and their names were Joseph and Mary. So it was a beautiful marriage. And I remember growing up just watching their love. It was really beautiful because they flirted with each other all the time. And I remember being in the kitchen, and my grandpa went up to my grandma, and he kind of hits her on the thigh, on the hip, and he's like, "Hi, my name's Joe." She looks at him, and she's like, "I know." And I'm like, they're 100 and they're flirting. I love it. And it was so beautiful to see this love that was ancient yet fresh, the references they had for each other. And I remember when she passed away last month, my grandpa went to the funeral home, and the first thing he asked the funeral director, he said, "Do you guys have any 2-for-1 deals?" Meaning, I wanted to live with this woman, and now I just want to die with this woman. And I can't imagine my life without her. And then I remember standing next to him at her casket, and he leaned over her casket. He was very frail, he's in his late 80s, and he leaned over and he gave her a little kiss on her nose, and all he said was, "Bye, babe." And I saw that, I'm like, that's it. Like, that's the real thing, like a love that's stronger than death. And it's like, how do you get there from here? Of this world that seems sometimes so jaded and confused with the notions of love you see on MTV. And, I know in the Filipino culture there tends to be a lot of parental supervision of your relationship. So, well, let me see if you're ready to date or if I like that boy. And I know there may be a temptation to pull away from that protection you have in your family, but I would encourage you to embrace it. I knew of a high school couple. They were seniors in high school. They had a beautiful relationship, and they were very pure. They would go to church together and Bible studies. They weren't getting drunk and sleeping together and building methamphetamine labs in their closet after school. I mean, it was a good little relationship. And one day they're hanging out at the girl's house, and the girl's dad said to the boy, he said, "Now, what is this I hear about you having such strong feelings for my daughter?" And the boy was like, "Oh, your daughter, she's the most amazing, beautiful woman on earth, and I'm just so in love." And the dad said, "I agree. She is the most beautiful woman God ever made. But I like that you're a good young man, but I'd really rather she focus on schoolwork and getting ready for college, not being in this intense emotional relationship." And they kind of saw the wisdom behind that, and so the guy agreed, "Okay, we'll just be friends." Now, his feelings were so strong for this girl, they decided to date secretly, behind the dad's back. But the young man said to the girl, "I can't do this to your dad. I respect your father so much, and if he were to ever find that we were lying to him, that would kill his trust in me, and I would hurt him, and we can't do that." But before they could tell the dad the truth, he caught them in a lie. And all the truth came out, and everything was heartbroken, and they were crying. And the young man said to the dad, he said, "Look, I can't just be friends with your daughter. I either have to be in a relationship with her or nothing at all." And so he said, "To prove to you that I'm going to let go of my daughter, I'm going to ask her to give back to me all the love letters I ever wrote to her." Because they would always, instead of texting each other, they would handwrite all their love letters back and forth. In fact, they had over 100 pages of handwritten love letters. So when they let go of this relationship, the girl gave the guy all these love letters that they had exchanged. And he said goodbye, and they left. They didn't even get to say goodbye to each other when they went off to college. But the night this happened, he came back to her house. In the middle of the night, he dug in her front lawn a hole, and he filled that hole with the box, with all the love letters in it. And he buried the box under all the dirt, and then he looked up to her house in the middle of the night, and he just said, "God, if it's your will for me to be with this woman, I know you're going to make it happen. And obeying her parents isn't going to ruin the love I have for her. But if you have someone greater for her than me, then all I want is what's best for her." And he left, trusting God. 2 years went by until he was in college, and his telephone rang in his dorm, and it was the girl's dad. And the dad's like, "Son, do you remember me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I remember you." And he said, "Son," he said, "I'll never forget the mark you left on my family. You had so much integrity and character to let go of my daughter when I know she meant the world to you. And that took a lot of integrity to stick by your word, and I really honor that. So if you want to date my daughter today, I know she's more than ready to begin courting." And he was thrilled, and he called the girl up, and they started dating each other for about a year, year and a half. And then on Christmas morning, he had a surprise to give her. And everyone knew what it was. It was a little box On Christmas morning, he gave it to her as a present. And she's all excited, oh, is this a ring? And she opens it, and she looks at it, and it's a piece of paper that says it's a red maple tree. From the local nursery, it's a tag that she could have a tree. And she's like, oh, thank you. I wanted a tree for Christmas, thank you. He said, yes, I thought you'd like the tree. And he said, you know, I think we should go plant the tree. And she's like, no, it's like 30 degrees outside. It's freezing. I don't want to plant. And he says, no, I really think we should. No, I don't want to. I plant the tree. Okay, plant the tree with a control freak. So I went to the front lawn, and I said, I think this would be a good place to plant a tree. And he started digging in the hole where he would bury the box 3.5 years earlier. And he dug open, he felt the box, and he pulled open the lid, and then he handed her the last love letter that he had ever written to her, which she had never seen, which was his marriage proposal to her. Now, one day he proposed to her, and they are now married and raising a family together. This is proof God honors those who honor Him. And the way you honor Him is by honoring your family who loves you more than life itself, and only wants for you a love that is worthy of you. And I know it can be difficult with the temptations, but understand the more pure you are, the easier it is to be pure. The more you sit on the fence, okay, we won't technically do that, but we're still going to do this, it becomes harder and harder. And again, I want to reiterate to you to stand fast to the values and the faith of the Filipino culture that as Americans, many of us look up to, because we see you in our newspapers. In fact, New York Times had an article about the Philippines and how HIV and AIDS is very small out here. And our article was called The Low Rate of the AIDS in the Philippines is a Puzzle, where Americans couldn't figure it out. Because we thought, oh yeah, if you don't want AIDS, just give out 1 billion condoms. Now that never worked anywhere. In fact, if you study this historically, you and Thailand both had your first case of HIV in the year 1984. Now, within 3 years, you both had about 100 cases of HIV. And at that point, your government stepped in. The government in Thailand stepped in and said, we will enact a 100% condom use program. We are going to distribute them everywhere. You must use condoms. And they started pushing that. Now, by the year 2005, Thailand had over 580,000 HIV victims in their country. Now, the Philippine government said, no, we're not going to promote promiscuity. We're not going to pass out condoms, giving people this false sense of security to engage in this bad behavior. No, we're going to stick by the morals. Be faithful, be monogamous, be pure, and not promiscuous. And so what happened by the year 2005? Thailand, 580,000 cases of HIV. Philippines, 12,000. They had 50 times the rate of HIV. It was because they pushed this contraceptive idea of behave however you want, but just use protection. And so to realize that Americans couldn't understand this, wow, how come you have virtually no HIV, but virtually nobody uses a condom over there? It's because you have this thing called morals. Stick with them. The heritage that you've been given as a country, stand firm in that. You are at a crux right now, I believe, in your country's history. That we've seen in Africa. In Uganda, they had a huge HIV rate. So the president over there, President Yoweri Museveni, said, we will promote abstinence and fidelity before pushing condoms. And what happened is the rate of HIV went down faster than it's ever been seen in any country in the world, the biggest decline in HIV. And then America stepped in and said, hey, you guys don't have a lot of HIV, you better be careful, it could go up, have a bunch of condoms. And if you take our contraceptives and our program for you, we'll give you financial aid as a country. And so the government said, well, we're going to get some money from America, and we just have to agree to plan our poverty along what they want by keeping poor families from not having more kids. Okay, bring on the condoms. Bring on the birth control. Lo and behold, Uganda's HIV rate has now begun to climb again. You are at this point where you have this low rate of HIV, where now the government is trying to push this upon you. And so I encourage you, not just to lobby, to encourage your congressmen and congresswomen to stand fast, but pray for your presidents. You know, pray for the president, Aquilina. Pray for the congresspeople. Pray that they will stand firm and that they will remain firm in this. And believe me, if you stand firm in this and you're vocal in this, you can save your country from so much hurt. But it begins, first and foremost, by how you live your own sexuality. Not by what you say, by what you do. That you will be a witness not only to your peers, but to your entire country, but to the world as a whole. So God bless you and stay strong.